The only raya was that it was dated earlier or something for some reason. Okay, Kuf Lamed, page 348. Steve. Morning. So we've been talking about evil and the creation of evil. Now we're going to go into a very happy topic, the destruction of evil. That God, we're going to learn that right. God made evil in the world, but the goal was that evil should eventually be destroyed. So we're going to go one paragraph back to what we did. Kuf Lamed, page 348. Amar HaSeichel, says the intellect. We learned everything that we need to know when it comes to the creation of evil. Now we're going to learn how Hashem set it up from the beginning that evil will eventually be destroyed. That in the world to come, everything is going to be rectified. Evil will be destroyed and all of the creations will be fixed. They'll be perfect. What we need to know first is even though Hashem allowed deficiency and He created evil to come into the world, His intent wasn't that evil should last forever. Rather on the contrary. Rather His goal, God's goal was that evil should be destroyed and that a perfect rectification should come into creation. Very good. So Hashem didn't make evil that it should destroy things in the world totally. He made again these deficiencies, this evil that should be fixed. In fact, that creations should exist even in the state of deficiency, even when they're in the state of evil. We'll discuss what that means, right? That creations will continue to exist even when they're affected by evil. He's going to bring examples of this. And they're not going to be totally destroyed by the evil. Until they go back to their original form, like a sick person who recovers from illness. A sick person, he doesn't have Hashem at that moment. The Giloi, the Hashpa of Hashem is not totally on him at that point. But when he gets better, whatever deficiencies were there go away. And Hashem, so to say, reveals Himself to the person and he gets better. So too, evil in the world, even though there's evil now, it's just like a sick person who gets better. So right now we see there's evil in the world. So right now we have the status of the sick person. And eventually Hashem's going to make us healthy again. He's going to give it examples. V'tira, Amidas Davar Zeh B'chol Divrei Olam. We can see the truth of this in everything in the world. Kilo Husmu HaKilkulim LaAbed HaTov. The truth of what? The truth that evil was not meant to destroy good. El LaAvis, rather just to damage it. When after evil is gone and good returns to its original state. Re'i. Now look. Afilu Amisa, even death. Shia Bittul Hayoser Gadol Sheva Olam Eina Bittul Gamar. Death is the biggest bittul, the biggest destruction that can happen in the world. A person is here and then he's not. Death is the biggest destruction. We see even when someone dies, there's something called Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim, resurrection of the dead. Judaism believes, one of the 13 principles of faith that every Jew has to believe, that we are eventually going to, after we pass away, we're going to come back. So even death, which is the biggest destruction, has that it's going to come back to the fixed state, the better state. Even though the body goes to the ground, it's known that the luz bone is going to last, that it lasts. To rebuild the actual body, the luz bone, all the more so, which is less than death, that it is not totally destroyed. Rather, it gets messed up and it can be rectified. So whatever bone it is, there's a bone in the body, that from that bone, the entire body will be resurrected from that. So he's saying here that evil and deficiency and destruction, no matter what it is, it will rectify, will get better. And he's bringing a proof from the biggest destruction that could be, where a person dies, that a person is going to come back to life. The Yisrael begolus haridim adafer. Now he's going to talk about the Jewish people. That was about a human being. Now he's going to talk about the Jewish people as a whole. The Yisrael begolus haridim adafer. The Jewish people, they went down in exile until dust. Shenem Abraham. It says by them, "B'machas shakim hoshivani k'meisei olam." In the dark, he caused me to dwell in darkness like the dead of the world. So that's talking about the Jews in exile. Doesn't sound so great. Right? He caused me to dwell in the darkness like the dead of the world. Doesn't sound like such a great state to be in exile. However, V'im kol zeh, with all of this, if it says in the verse, V'af gamzos, and with all of this, V'yosem be'eretz aveim, when the Jews, it says in the Torah, in Leviticus, when the Jews are in the land of their enemies, be'eretz aveim, lo ma'astim v'lo ga'altim l'chalaisim, I will not be repulsed by them, and I will not hate them to destroy them. So even though the Jews in Galus, in exile, are on a very, very low level, Hashem promises us that even in such a level, He will not destroy us. The Jewish people will always continue to exist. Some misguided folks have said that, at the Holocaust, that Hashem broke His covenant with the Jewish people. But you see here, it's explicit in the Torah that no matter how bad things get, and things got pretty bad during the Holocaust, no matter how bad things get, Hashem never abrogates His covenant with the Jewish people that we should always exist. But the point that Ramchal here is making is that even though we're in such a lowly state, and even though such horrible things could happen, Kimeisei Olam, nevertheless Hashem is always with us. Uksiv, it says, Ki ani Hashem lo shanisi, I am Hashem, it does not change. V'atem b'nei Yaakov lo chilisam, and you, the children of Jacob, will not be destroyed. V'hainu, and that is, Ki eina kodesh baruch hu nichem al ma'asav atovim shemi asem. Hashem doesn't regret the good things that He made, that He's repulsed by them, and wants that He's repulsed by them. He doesn't. The Jewish people were sent into exile when we weren't doing the right thing. That doesn't mean that God was ever repulsed by us. That He wants to destroy us. Even though He allowed destruction to exist, He doesn't push us away with two hands. He allows us to undergo trials and tribulations. Because He knows in the end that it will be for our good. Right? The Jewish people, this goes on a personal level and on a communal level. A person does sins, or a community does sins. One of the ways to take away the spiritual impurity that happened because of those sins is by suffering, going through certain suffering. So the only way to get back to the holy level and to return and get close to Hashem is by going over certain suffering for certain sins. Again, we could always do tshuva and we could rectify our deeds, and then you don't even have to go through that suffering in many cases. But the idea is that, and just like he brings here in the notes, that when Adam sinned, since evil went into his being, before Adam sinned by eating from the fruit, evil was something that was external. When he ate from the fruit, evil became part of him. So that's why death had to come to the world, because a person had to die, his body has to rot, so that the evil could come out of it, and he could atone for it in that way. So the death, in that sense, is a good thing, because human beings could not get rid of the evil unless they died. So we see that all of the suffering and all of the bad things that happen are actually for our good in the end of the day. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to be pleasant when we're going through them. They're not pleasant. But the idea is that eventually it's for our good. Al-Kain, therefore, hu mekayim mitziyusam. He keeps His creations existing. But He lets them undergo these tribulations. But after this, after a human being and the Jewish people go through these tribulations, they will sprout anew, like in a garden, like the bare earth sending fruit its crops, in a garden sending forth its seeds. Let's just finish this paragraph. Now the seeds themselves prove this. What's the proof? How does the seed germinate? You put a seed in the ground and it rots. The seed actually rots first. And it doesn't, even though the seed rots first, it doesn't destroy the seed, but on the contrary, through the rotting, that's how it starts to grow. So we see that Hashem doesn't allow evil to come into the world to destroy good, but rather it's a means of perfecting the good. Okay. I think we'll stop here for today, but the idea is that God created evil, right? Evil, again, like we've mentioned many times, is not a separate creation, a separate force. It's like good and evil battling. That's not what we believe. We believe that God created evil. We just mentioned before that the way he created evil was different from the way that he created good. That evil was created indirectly, but it was still created by God. But the goal in creating evil was not that it should be here forever, but rather that it should be destroyed. And the only reason evil exists is that it's a means of rectification for the good, and that goes on a personal level and on a communal level.
Good.